Let's go individual stuff first. Mag's pretty crazy aggressive. But it's not always crazy aggressive like Bumper. Sometimes it is, but it's also the weird pins or weird charges that I think would definitely get punished. But he does have fantastic understanding of when enemy teams are going to be open to being earth-shattered, and I think he's able to get away with too much when he plays in Korean Contenders on the Winston. I think he'd get punished much more if he was playing in Owl when he was playing Winston. He doesn't have to respect the opposing Brigittes because most of the opposing Brigittes aren't that good. Kyoku's bomb placement is super good, and occasionally his peel is really good for Mag as well. He doesn't take aggressive positions that often to relieve pressure from Mag. He tends to play pretty tight with the rest of the team, which is a bit weird. Hisu, I'm not particularly high on. I think Hisu individually, his bubbles are sometimes way off. His grabs have generally been pretty good, actually. But then the follow-up on the grab is really weird. He's very passive, and he sits back a lot, which can sometimes be the same thing as being really passive, but he doesn't go and he doesn't occupy the front line to take aggression away from Mag a lot, although he will do on some occasions. He doesn't go aggressive in grabs to try and get the biggest value he can out of it, and it looks like the team doesn't really play around him very often. But he seems fairly mechanically skilled. But I dislike his positioning and his bubble usage at times. Kyoku seemed like he had pretty decent bubbles when he was playing Zarya, when Hisu was playing the Sombra. Shui's been alright. Shui's Brig was pretty decent, but a lot of the time that I was looking at Shui, I was wondering why he was going for a different target to everybody else. Like, in a lot of these fights that break down a little scrappily, Shui's bash is really important along with Ganamjin's Discord. They should be kind of on the same person. And I don't think that Shui is... It sometimes seems like RunAway's not on the same page in terms of who they're focusing compared to the top teams in Owl. Certainly better than the other Korean Contenders teams, but they are sometimes split, where Shui will be chasing down one person because he reckons he can get a bash. The rest of the team is chasing down somebody else. And even though a lot of damage is being poured into the other person, they don't get the bash, so they're not able to get the kill. Lee Jae-gon seems like a fucking nut mechanically on Lucio. Great understanding of boob timings. Really good fragging ability, actually, as well. Doesn't get caught out very much. He did do over the course of, over the course of 3 VODs that I reviewed, he got caught out, a handful of times. Less so than you would expect for the impact that he has. His sound barrier timings are generally pretty good. There was maybe 2 occasions over 3 VODs where he fucked them up and they were pretty bad, but mostly pretty solid. And seems to have quite a lot of clutch potential. Pretty offensive, Lucio. Gangnam Jin on Ana is fantastically clutch. Really plays with Mag very well. His sleep darts are mega clutch. His nano boosts are often too early, but the way that he plays around nano when the other team has EMP is really good and helps them against Sombra Goats a lot. And his Zenyatta seems pretty mechanically gifted in terms of his aim, but he wasn't going insane, but he was doing, he's absolutely getting work done. But his Transcendence usage was frequently quite poor. Like, frequently really poor. Probably the worst ult usage out of anybody on the team. In fact, definitely the worst ult usage out of anybody on the team. QOQ has a good understanding of when to use bomb, although he did whiff a couple. Again, not misunderstanding on Horizon of where people were going. Was that the only situation? Yeah, maybe it was only that one time that QOQ fucked up his bomb. I think QOQ's got a pretty good understanding of how to use self-destruct. They don't rely too much on self-destruct bomb combo, which I thought they did just from the small amount that I'd watched of them. So that criticism was not valid. That turned out not to be the case. They're actually pretty good at being able to utilize them separately. Although, as I said, Hisu's grabs themselves are pretty good, but the follow-up on the grab can often be quite poor from Hisu because he plays too passively. Mag's Earth Shatters were good. The rallies were good. The soundbars were mostly good. The Transcendences are really quite poor from Gundam Jin. Then, as a team, I already talked a bit about their focus fire. They seem like they have a good understanding of how to play the Beatty style, where Mag takes a lot of the attention. They play pretty passive when the enemy team has EMP, which I don't like. They seem to still win a lot of fights because Gundam Jin's understanding of how to use Nano Boost is really good, and they pour a lot of resources into Mag. And they play very spread out, so it's difficult to get EMPs on everybody without them being able to help each other. But I think it could be improved by them playing more aggressively around Mag against the EMPs. Because they did have that Blizzard World. Blizzard World was the map that they dropped, and a lot of that was them just letting Edison get into too much of a good position without playing aggressively enough. They can be an aggressive team, but I wouldn't say that they're all out aggressive all the time, or really have like a crazy high tempo to them. They're not Titans or Shock in terms of how aggressive they are. What else? I don't know. What else? Hey, Meet the Meep. Oh, the Junkertown bomb. I mean, the Junkertown bomb wasn't bad, though. The Junkertown bomb was just fucking dumb from Gen G. Kyoku got demeched and just laid the bomb down in the middle. What's the other thing? Okay, so I definitely think, having watched RunAway VODs, that they're not on the same level as Titans and Shock and NYXL. But I think that it's very difficult to be able to tell the difference between those teams and the middle of the pack in OWL, and I think they're definitely better than the teams at the bottom of OWL. That definitely is a strong term. I strongly suspect that they're not as good as the top 3 in OWL. I think they're probably on the level of somewhere between the 4th to maybe the 15th. And I'm pretty certain they're better than the 16th to 20th teams in OWL. I think they're somewhere in here. They don't have as good... they're not as fast-paced as Shock or Titans. They make more mistakes with their ultimates than all 3 of the top teams. They don't get as much value out of their Zarya as the top 5 teams, maybe. Their Transcendence usage is worse than the top... maybe top 10 teams. But they have a good understanding of the meta. They're very good against Sombra Goats, and they get great value out of Ana and Mag's aggression. What else? Is there anything else that needs to be said? I don't know. Can anyone else remember stuff that I was talking about? I don't know. The boops and the relief of pressure. Yeah, I think I spoke on that a little bit, but I think these guys could do a better job of playing a bit more aggressive to be able to relieve pressure from Mag. And I don't mean aggressive like fucking yeeting into them. I mean just like actually taking QOQ, taking high ground positions. Like obviously not here, but you know, like for example, if you were having some weird fight, like if this was the low ground and that was the high ground of some weird box shaped structure, I don't fucking know. Taking the high ground and being able to distract and set up set themselves up, set QOQ up in a better position, or Hisu playing further up alongside Mag to be able to increase his damage output, to be able to relieve pressure away from Mag when it's required with his personal bubbles, just to put another player there to distract, and sometimes Shui as well. The boobs from Lee Jae-gon were fantastic. What else? Oh yeah, and also I suppose it is difficult to tell how good RunAway are because a lot of the times when they win, it's their opponents completely shitting the bed. Gen G are the second best team in Korea right now, by the look of it, by the table and stuff. G Super Sam Wave are also, you know, a fairly decent team, and they made so many mistakes. Gen G had some... What were the biggest errors that Gen G were making? There was so many. Really bad ult usage, terrible understanding of how gravs should be used, really bad transcendences from Gen G as well, way worse than Gangnam Jin. This game was definitely closer. G Super Sam Wave played better in this game than the previous one, but they did play a bunch of Sombra. In general, RunAway seemed pretty good against that, but they struggled in a couple of situations. Yeah. So I think that's what can be said about RunAway. Question is whether they're better than the other undefeated team in Europe, British Hurricane. I don't know how good British Hurricane really are because I haven't done the same thing with them. But I would certainly say that they're not as good as the top three. And I know that there are people out there that believe that they are the best team in the world right now, RunAway. Okay, so here's the other thing as well. The idea of RunAway being a very clean team, I think, is just wrong. When things got messy on point B on this map, or when the fight devolves and they need some focus fire, or their ult usage in general, clean is not a word that I would associate with this team. I don't think they play clean Overwatch. So, yeah. Anyway, okay. That's that then. That's RunAway. I think Titans are often very clean, actually. Titans have been very clean at times. And not even at times. Titans' general play is super clean. And then when things get hairy, they have really tight teamwork. So when they... Shock are the cleanest team in the league. But when Titans are in the middle of fights, their teamwork is still really tight. They don't get very all over the place. They don't focus different targets. They don't lose track of where people are in the fight. They don't tend to have one player that wanders into a region, like an area that they shouldn't and gets picked off. They still are fairly coordinated even when things get chaotic, which is what I mean by... I suppose that's not really clean. I suppose that's tight. But RunAway weren't that tight. They weren't that coordinated when things got chaotic. Clean, I suppose, generally refers to how much you just execute super well on everything that you do. Like if you have a plan, you go in, you obliterate your opponents, you reset. I suppose that's clean. That's more like the San Francisco Shock, I suppose. But Titans are very good at executing on what their plan is. And they generally are pretty clean. It looks chaotic because they play that style where they shove bumper in and try and bait you into fucking they try and bait you into killing people on Titans and then peel for them so well that you end up getting collapsed on, which can look messy, but the design is there. Like that's the whole point of what they're trying to do. So that is pretty clean. Like that's their plan, and they execute on their plan. And their ults are very clean. The Titans' ult usage is super clean, whereas RunAway's ult usage is not. This, I think, is the distinction between what I would consider clean or tight Overwatch and why I don't think those labels really apply to RunAway if we're considering the absolute top-level teams in the game.